What is up, beautiful people of the internet? I go by the name of Wesley, and today we're reacting to TierZoo's dog tier list. We've done a bunch of these tier lists before. They're really fun. We've done dinosaurs, we've done sharks, we've done cats. Now we're going into the doggos, the goodest of boys. I am immensely curious because I am so much less familiar, and I think I'm not alone in this. I'm less familiar with all of the different dog builds than I was with the cat builds going into it. So I think we could all learn something here. I feel marginally attached to the dingo, despite knowing just about nothing about the dingo, because I love to say the word dingo and work dingo into conversations. So I'm hoping dingo has a good showing, but other than that, no biases. That being said, guys, subscribe down below for reactions and check out other TierZoo reaction videos on the channel. Let's hit it. TierZoo!
Play of the game.
Bison? Oh. Whoa. 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 What? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Patricide is killing a parent. Infanticide. What the heck? That's... Bro, nature is metal. What the hell?
I made it pretty clear that I see house cats and domestic dogs as top tier. But although I've made videos already on the non-domestic felines...
I'm sorry. I'm just still trying to emotionally process that we saw parent bison absolutely wasting kiddo bison right there. What? It's just like, oh, you're dead anyways, kid. Let's speed this up. What?
I haven't done the same for
What
canines.
the hell?
Canines are some of the most successful builds ever, despite being relatively new to the competitive scene. They debuted in the Oligocene expansion, but they really hit their stride in the Miocene, because the devs nerfed the dominant herbivore factions that had previously been untouchable. Canines had great matchups against the new, less tanky herbivores like deer, cows, and horses, and so canines were able to expand from North America.
I always love when you're watching dogs and they go like actually hunting, and it just looks like we're going swiggity swoogity. I'm coming for that booty. Because they always, like, they bite the flank, but it always kind of looks like they're just getting in there, like, for the booty.
Of the meta on every single server other than Antarctica. But enough about the
Antarctica's trash server anyways.
All canines may seem similar, and they are, but there are some awesome unique
foxes!
attributes and abilities that are
foxes.
worth discussing, as well as some misconceptions worth dispelling. So without further ado, let's get into it. So one of the key components to a successful canine build is team play. Hunting in packs and having a defined social structure turns what normally would be a pretty average build into a truly dominant one. And so the dogs that are the lowest on the tier list are of course going to be the ones that don't do this or do this poorly. At the bottom of the tier list we have the Maine Wolf. Now it's hard to look at this build and not think, wow, that's really cool. The Maine Wolf is the tallest canine in the current expansion, which gives it a bonus against stealth because it can see over tall grass.
It is beautiful.
It's also the only one with a mane, a rare attribute that's usually only seen on lions and horses. And while manes do provide some protection against critical hits, it doesn't do much else.
Hold up, I have to show you guys this. Just in case it's too small. So Maine's right there. The other buff is obesity. And then we have female RPG characters armor. I don't know. He gets TierZoo. I just feel like he gets my sense of humor.
The Maine Wolf is also the biggest outlier of the dog faction in that it has a completely solitary playstyle. As a result, it doesn't have near the same PvP potential that the more social dogs do.
So what does it do?
Despite being the tallest of canines, it has to settle for hunting small targets. Since those aren't a very good source of XP, it actually has to make up for it by eating a lot of plants and fruit.
Wow.
It's good that it's omnivorous, as being able to function as a scavenger is great. But there's no ignoring that this build could have a much higher potential if it utilized team strats.
It almost looks like its legs are too long, doesn't it? Like, they look so skinny and fragile.
One step up on this list and we have the Coyote, or for the non-American players, the Jackal. A build that honestly just needs a slight buff in order to be really strong, but at the moment isn't in the greatest spot in the meta.
Really?
Even with solid team plays, Coyotes just don't do enough damage to score eliminations on targets that aren't already super weak. For example, in this clip here, we can see a team of Coyotes diving on this low-level deer player, but they're actually unable to get the pick before the rest of the deer team rallies and chases them off. If Coyotes were to spec into some longer, more dagger-like teeth, I could see them being better suited for this, but for now, they just aren't threatening enough. They tend to have equal or possibly favorable matchups against lynx and bobcat players, but lose hard against cougars.
Oh yeah.
So I think this puts them at the high end of D tier definitively. One step higher and we've got the...
That's weird because coyotes are everywhere. I guess it depends like what what's your metric for success? Is it just like survivability or ability to thrive, or is it PvP? Because I feel like coyotes are everywhere, and having a ton of you in a lot of different places seems like that should be a metric for success, right?
Fox. Now, I know most of us are used to seeing Fox at the top of most tier lists, but in Outside, they're a lot more balanced. They have extremely similar base stats to Coyotes, but also have a few unique abilities of their own. They've got extremely strong perception abilities that allow them to deal with stealth strategies employed by their targets. And their precision pounce attack is extremely useful for picking off targets that they discover hiding under the snow. Some foxes have also spec'd into climbing abilities, which is really useful for getting out of reach of the more powerful players. While their higher agility can help them avoid land predators, their smaller size does make them a target for raptors, so it's a bit of a trade-off. Coyotes and foxes both utilize team play, but in a very disorganized fashion. Unlike the higher tier builds, they don't have an established pecking order or coordinated strategies. They sort of just band together and use numbers to their advantage.
Just like, what up,
sort of
boys?
like social spiders, which I cover in my spider video. Next up, we've got the
That'll
wolf.
scare the crap
wolf
out of me.
is
I'm
one of the
scared.
cornerstones of the forest meta and pioneered the technique that most pack hunting builds use today. The wolf hunting technique has been dissected and analyzed to an incredible degree. So here's a rundown of the strat plus a few tips on how to counter it. The basic wolf strat is a 5-step plan that utilizes every ability in the wolf's arsenal, and it goes like this. Step 1 is locating the target. Wolf players will use perception abilities like smell, sound, and footprint tracking to locate a potential bounty.
That is so cool. Just the fact that wolves can do tracking, isn't that amazing? That's so cool. I can't track. Wolf's got that on me.
Once found, they gather the pack and move on to step 2. In step 2, all wolves go into stealth mode and attempt to get as close as possible to the target
Look
without
at me
alerting it.
sneaking.
Once the target detects them, they move on to step 3. Step 3 is the defining moment in the hunt, and the success depends on what the target does here. Once the target detects the wolves, it can either charge, stand, or flee. The wolves will only proceed to step 4 once the target flees. If the target chooses to stand its ground, the wolves must use intimidation abilities like growling and barking in order to reduce the target's resolve. If the intimidation succeeds and the target flees, step 4 is triggered. Step 4 pits...
That's really interesting because even in ancient battles where there was more like melee warfare that was going on, most of the casualties only actually occurred once armies started retreating, right? So a lot of the battle was fighting to see which army would get scared and their will would break first and they would flee, right? And then, obviously, when you're presenting your back, you can't defend yourself the same way with shields, with swords, even just, seeing what's coming. And so that was what was be called a rout, right? And then just hordes would... If you and your army fled, right? And it's constantly a battle because you don't want to be the first one to flee, but you definitely don't want to be the last one to flee. So if you're the last one to flee and you're like, okay, I know that if we run, we will die, so I will stay. But everybody else runs, you're going to die anyway. So it's like these battles where everybody kind of always looking out and being like, okay, everyone else going to run? Because I want to be in the middle when we're running because my army will kill me if I run first. Their army will kill me if I run last. Maybe I'll get away with it if I'm somewhere in the middle. But most of the deaths occurred when armies were running away. Similar to wolf prey.
Mobility stat of the target against the mobility stat of the wolves. This step is also when the wolves will attempt to isolate the target player from their group if they're in one.
It's literally like watching a shepherd dog.
The final step.
It's like the same thing that the shepherding breeds do to sort the animals, except the shepherding breeds, or to move them around, except they're trying to protect them and the wolves are trying to eat them. So it's weird seeing that same behavior,
Step
right?
5 is the actual attack. Wolves rely on their bite move to inflict damage, and the size of their target determines where they'll try to land a hit. Against midweights, wolves will go for a crit by attacking the throat. If this succeeds, it should result in a one-shot kill. Against heavies, they actually won't go for a crit at all, because heavies can one-shot wolves if they aren't careful. Going for a crit puts them in range of an attack,
Oof.
so usually wolves will opt to attack the
Why do
front
I
door
always
since
root?
it's
I
safer.
always root for the predators. Why? Every time I'm like, oh, yeah, bison just died. Cool. I mean, except when that bison killed its kid. That was weird. That upset me. But obviously, because I'm bringing it up again. But every other time when it's like hunting footage and a bison has the audacity to turn around and give a wolf a little horn, right? I'm like, poor Wolfie. But when there's like 8 wolves literally like biting a caribou to death in the most painful way to die I can imagine, honestly. Except maybe like getting fed feet first into a wood chipper. But regardless, not the point. I'm like, haha, look at the wolfies. They're getting food, and I don't care. I'm only empathetic to the predators.
Since they can't crit by attacking
Why?
quarters,
Are you guys
it
like
generally
that?
takes 3 successful bites in order to deal enough damage to inflict the bleed status effect. This drains the target's stamina and health over time, eventually leading to a game over for them. It's awesome that wolf mains have made their strategy guide available to new players, but doing so also allows players to learn the matchup and develop counterplay options. Here are some of the best ways to combat the 5-step wolf strat. The first is to spec into some high-level stealth abilities. Wolves actually have a relatively weak sense of smell, so camouflage is actually really useful against them. A good stealth player will be able to stop the hunt at step 1. If stealth doesn't work with your build, you can stop the hunt at step 2 by detecting them during their stealth phase. Strong perception.
What is this wolf thinking? This bear's like, bro, what are you doing? The bear's like, bro, my cubs are bigger than you. It's like, if you guys ever seen videos where there's, they're maybe not actual MMA fighters, but there's like a super heavyweight who weighs like 265 pound dude, and then there's like a 130 pound dude trying to fight him, and the guy's more like confused than concerned. And when the person you're trying to fight is more confused than concerned, you probably shouldn't be in that fight. Like, look at this wolf.
At step 2
Look at
by
it.
detecting
It's just like,
them during
what?
their stealth
Bro, what are you doing? And the wolf's just like, yeah, honestly, I didn't think this one through.
phase.
What?
Strong perception abilities will easily cause the wolf's mediocre stealth to fail against you. For example, wolves would pretty much never be able to successfully get within a dangerous range against a giraffe. But if they do manage to sneak up on you, the most important counterplay option is to stand your ground.
Why are wolves
will
trying to
only
fight
move to their
bears?
attack phase if their target opts to flee. A player who opts to defend drastically increases their chances of success, since the wolf's only option at that point
black
is to
wolf
use
is
its rather weak
gorgeous.
intimidation abilities.
Yowza.
If wolves had access to roar like lions and tigers do, they'd be really tough to deal with. But since they don't, it's pretty easy to resist the intimidation attempts,
I
especially
don't know, they're
in a
pretty
group.
scary.
In fact, a heavy player can end the encounter pretty quickly by using their own intimidation abilities like charge. So even though wolves do have a pretty solid offensive strategy, players with good fundamentals and matchup experience will be able to thwart their plans most of the time. And so wolves, much like birds of prey, function as the gatekeepers to the higher tier, and are placed solidly in A tier. The highest ranked canine build, other than domestic dogs of course, which I've already covered in another video, is the African Painted Hound.
What?
This build follows a very similar strategy to the wolf, but has stats and abilities much better suited for it. Its higher stealth allows it to get closer before being detected, and its higher speed reduces the chance that its target outruns it.
Where's the
Their sharper
dingo?
teeth deal more damage, and their highly sophisticated social structure is actually built around propping up the weaker members, rather than simply funneling the best loot to the highest ranking members. Considering that these players succeed in a meta that contains some of the most powerful builds in the game, it's tough to deny that African Painted Hounds are top tier. If you'd like to learn more about how canines evolved to
That was a damn curveball, eh?
become some of the most successful builds of all time, I highly recommend the...
Did you guys expect that? Damn. I'm still a little salty though. Like, where's the dingo? Where's the dingo? And furthermore, I have an issue. I have an issue with this list. I feel like this list was probably true of the meta 100 years ago, but humans and the Industrial Revolution have had a massive impact on the meta. And wolves have like in North America, let's just say, let's focus on the North American server because I know that one the best. Wolves have had such a hard time in the North American server. They've only recently started to make a comeback because humans have stopped hunting them. Prior to that, and wolves have shown no propensity to be able to actually coexist with humans or even near humans, whether that's rural, because if they start killing livestock, humans kill them, or in the city, because if they're in the city, humans kill them. Whereas, like, coyotes, especially, have shown a huge propensity to be able to live in and among humans, regardless of if it's urban or rural. So I just feel like, yeah, this would be true if humans were taken out of the equation, but humans are the most dominant players in the meta right now, so surely how these different animals match up with humans has, and even the environment and the meta that humans have created, that has to be taken into consideration. And if you take that into consideration, I feel like coyotes and foxes have to jump all the way up to like at least A or B tier, and wolves have to be damn down in like D or F tier, because they just get murked by humans all the time. That being said, let me know what you guys think. Like, in the wilderness, yeah, I agree with the rankings, but this isn't... So much isn't the wilderness, and even the wilderness has been affected because wolf packs need such a huge amount of territory. But that being said, let me know what you guys think. I am Wesley. Subscribe down below for more reactions. We have done more TierZoo reactions in the past, so check those out if you want to. I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. I'm Wesley, and I'm